Hi, I'm Larry Dignan with ZDNet, and we're with Catherine Ross. She is the Accenture lead for the Black Founders Fund, an effort to fund more diverse businesses. Hi, Catherine. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Larry. Lovely to be here. Thank you so much for allowing me to join you today.
So, I guess walk me through how the Black Founders Fund started. You obviously have CEO support and some pretty big backing with Accenture, but how did this start? And was it recently, or was it in place before kind of all the turmoil we had?
No, this is something that's pretty recent. I actually had the opportunity in December. One of my old mentors lured me into joining our Accenture Ventures team back in December. And he lured me, number one, just with the opportunity to work with the startup ecosystem, but also specifically a role around creating an inclusion and diversity agenda for Accenture Ventures. And that pull in December led to me just trying to understand internally what programs we have, like our supplier diversity program, which looks at small businesses that want to work with Accenture, as well as some programs we have around nonprofits, but then looking externally. And I think when the external, it was a huge eye opener looking into the VC community and understanding the billions of dollars that are delivered to startup and founders on a yearly basis. And of that number, less than 1% was going to Black founders. When you anything that comes up at less than 1% is a rounding error at the end of the day. And so, I really wanted to understand, why is that? What's happening, in the VC community for underrepresented founders? Because I will say that, women, Latinos, all of the underrepresented groups are less than 3%, but Black founders at less than 1%. That was really surprising to me. So that's where I really wanted to take some focus. There's some thought leadership that we need to do in that space. But once I found that information out, interestingly, I had an opportunity to interview Arlen Hamilton from Backstage Capital. It was a random request. I had not met her previously. She had just released her book, It's About Damn Time. So I had a chance to read the book and to interview Arlen. And the book, number one, was absolutely fabulous in terms of inspiration and how she decided to start Backstage. But number two, also additional sort of information and around Black founders and what was happening in that community. That started me on the path of, okay, initially we were thinking around just funding. And, at that point I was like, no, this is a bigger issue and a bigger problem. And to be honest with you, there's money being left on the table, right? There's innovation that's coming out of this community that we, from a corporate or a technology perspective, are not taking advantage of. And then there are Black founders who are not able to expand and grow their business because they're not getting the funding necessary to help them evolve it. And so as I started to put together that program, George Floyd happened. And my leadership, I have to hand it to them, said, Kathy, you know what, you need to go bigger. And so that's how the Black Founders Development Program was born, was that initial set of the interviews, the opportunity to talk with Arlen, and then my leadership literally getting behind me very, very early in the game and saying, you need to go bigger, you need to push this, you need to not be afraid to be controversial, you need to take a stance and push the envelope. And that's how Black Founders got developed.
So how much capital will be backing Black founders?
It's not about capital per se. Obviously, we're a VC. We don't disclose, how we fund. It really is about Accenture as a corporate venture capital and our depth, breadth, and global expertise. We're able to, and we're going to be able to actually drive time to market. So absolutely, we're a VC and we will be investing and funding these startups, but even more so, we're going to be able to bring our clients, we're going to be able to bring our technology partners as well as our own expertise to the table so that these founders very quickly and earlier in their time frame can validate that their solution is market relevant. That allows them to get funding from Accenture, but also from other VCs, because we're able to incubate. We've got labs globally, right? We're able to actually put them in place so they can be in front of a client, pitch their idea, and evolve it with our assistance and help and support.
Yeah, I mean, you guys Accenture can definitely facilitate a lot for sure, and make sure these companies are enterprise ready too. Exactly. Is the goal, I guess that fast forward 5 years, is the goal you know, a unicorn or two? Is it an IPO? I guess what's the, you know, if this works out, you know, perfectly, what's it look like 5 years from now?
So I would say that, you know, I'll answer it in two ways. The goal would be, you know, obviously we'd be very happy for any IPOs and any exits. Uh, you know, we also have a part of our organization which is all about delivering value to our clients. And so if we can help these founders get business, you know, you know, drive solutions that we're able to help and sell and deliver to clients or introduce them to, I think that's a success as well. For me personally, you know, one of the things that I want to make sure that I do is we find that as an entrepreneur, you send out emails, you send requests, whether it's to VC or otherwise, and that can just go into a vacuum that you never hear anything back, right? Or if you do, you get the random no. I want to make sure that for everyone who reaches out to me, who touches me, that if I'm able to get them a step or two ahead, in many cases, you know, Accenture may not be the answer. We may not be the solution for them. But if I can do a warm introduction to someone who's able to get them a step or two ahead, that for me is personal success. Because then at least I've done my best to make sure that I'm educating and I'm helping and I'm using my network to help others.
So, you know, that kind of brings me around to the relationships question, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so when I look at VCs, right, like I'm on the
Right.
East Coast, and I kind of look at it as this clubby little, it's almost like Silicon Valley's almost like this local little town of
Right.
like prep school Stanford people or something. I don't know how I look at it, but that's kind of how I see it. So, you know, as far as the Founders Fund goes, how much of this is like relationships and geography? You know, obviously there's systemic racism in there too, but I guess what's the mix? Like, do you think you'll be, you know, kind of dealing with founders all over the country, or will there be specific areas? You know, because I see the VC funding area. They basically fund, you know, it's West Coast, it's a little
Mm-hmm.
Austin, it's a little New York, and that's kind of it. So
Well,
yeah,
you know, I will say this from a geography perspective, you know, COVID has sort of leveled the playing field. It sort of doesn't matter where you are at this point. So to a certain extent, the geography question is not necessarily as prevalent today, but in the past, absolutely, it was the West Coast. Uh, as you said, it is really all about relationships and it's about the network. And, you know, if you think about it, you know, what's represented, if you will, on your board or what's represented in your company tends to attract what you get in the ecosystem, whether it's founders, entrepreneurs, or otherwise. You know, a great mentor of mine said many years ago that business operates like kindergarten. And basically, when you get on the playing field, when you go out to, you know, play kickball or basketball, I'm aging myself with kickball, but or
it's a great
basketball,
sport though.
you know, the teacher picks two team leads, and then you know they start to pick their teams, and invariably the first people they pick are people they know, right? They're friends, the people who they've either worked with or played with in the past. And then from a, you know, secondary perspective, you know, they'll pick, you know, somebody who looks like, right? He's tall or she's tall, you know, if we're playing basketball, maybe they're the next. But that is the key, is the network, the people that you know. And if your network is not one that's diverse, then you may not be getting to a diverse set of entrepreneurs that are coming through your door. I think CVCs have a great opportunity to change that because number one, our remit is greater than just the VC, right? It's about delivering to our clients. And so, you know, from an Accenture standpoint, we're able to and have our own diversity metrics that are very, very public around growing the organization. But now we can show entrepreneurs that there's a diverse set of people, myself included, who are actually actively looking not in Silicon Valley for solutions to the problems that our clients and the world is facing. So I think that's where the opportunity lies, is making sure that number one, and an internal perspective, corporations and organizations are truly diverse themselves, because that will attract the other diverse entrepreneurs and founders that will also utilize our internal networks to go out and make sure that you've got that pipeline.
What's the role of universities in this? in terms of, I guess away from the, usual pockets where VCs look for founders and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that school education as a whole has a huge role to play in this, right? Whether it's universities all the way down to K through 12. We need to make sure that we are actually teaching entrepreneurship, right, as an opportunity and as a way forward. We know that, for our children, it's what they see, in the surroundings that can guide where they go, or they have a fantastic teacher or a guidance counselor, someone who educates them on the opportunities in the marketplace. And that entrepreneurship and creating your own business is absolutely an opportunity. For universities, very specifically, I think, and HBCUs, they haven't necessarily been a part of the technology stack, so to speak, in terms of where we obviously go to recruit, but actually go to actually inspire the creation of new companies, new businesses. So I think there's a huge opportunity for corporations, for VCs and others to start tying into those entities. Number one, to give the students an appetite, a venue, a vision into what VC truly is, right? They may go the VC route, or they may go the entrepreneur route, or any of the areas in between. But if they don't have that awareness, then that's not a route that they take. And then two, for them, for the companies that go in, number one, they're hopefully creating a pipeline for themselves of fantastic talent coming in the door. But number two, they're seeding, right, the next generation of ideas that we can use to create innovation for our clients going forward. So I see universities, I see schools, I think I see this going down to STEM courses in K through 12 as well. There are plenty of schools. I remember there's one school here in Chicago, I'm forgetting the name, that was all about teaching kids how to invest from kindergarten, coming in the door, giving them money and teaching them how to invest and but that was about creating wealth. This is about teaching them to invest, but also to innovate. So to create wealth, but also create businesses that can create jobs, that can change communities. And I think that's truly where I think the opportunity is when we get to kids in universities and or in high school and K through 12.
And do you think it has to start way younger just because of like the mindset? Like if you come from some wealth, you feel like you have a safety net to kind of take a bigger shot. Mm-hmm. Is that why the K through 12 programs are probably going to be pivotal to sort of, get kids thinking bigger?
I think it's pivotal in a couple of different ways. Once again, it's exposure, right? As a child, you see what your parents do, you see what your grandparents did, you see what your aunts and uncles, what your friends' parents do. And that exposure starts to, give you some insight in terms of what the opportunities are in the future for yourself. If you don't see, some of the roles, as I said, unless you have a great teacher or guidance counselor, or opportunistically meet someone who lets you know, what the opportunities are, or, a new role, it may not be something that you choose. So I think it is something that needs to go down to that level. But I also, very much, technology is something that's changing so quickly. I mean, and it's such a huge part of all of our lives, right? A cell phone, it's the ultimate technology, and it's the ultimate remote control to our lives. There's video games, there's laptop computers, there's monitors. If you think about any technology out there, we're surrounded by it, all of us, at a very young age. But if we're not telling our kids that you can actually be a part of the development of that technology, development of that next game that you love to play, right? We need to be educating them that that's a capability and that's a process and that's something that they can, be involved in. And from that point forward, as they go to university and college, now they have an opportunity to actually think bigger.
Okay. Is there any questions I didn't ask that I should have? Anything to throw out there that I missed?
This is the time, right? This is the whole point of them being an underrepresented community is they haven't had a seat at the table. There are innovations that are coming out of that community that have had tremendous impact on the world and just haven't necessarily been as heavily or highly celebrated as they could have been and should have been. And I think that we as a society are missing out And I think, you know, we corporate entities as well, there's money to be made here, right? This is, you know, for me, there's an, you know, altruism, if you will, and making sure that we give back to the Black community and seed the next generations, from an education as well as from a creating wealth standpoint. But there is business to be created, and there is revenues to be generated here. And I think if we all double down and delve into this, there's a win for everybody on this, in this path. So if there's one last thing, it's that is, you know, there's innovation in this group and in this market. We need to go make sure that it gets elevated.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.